Hi, everybody. This is 1,189 days since Richard vanished from the barracks there at Fort Bliss in El Paso, Texas. And he didn't just vanish, he was a whistleblower, and they retaliated against him. Um, and that escalated to his code red murder, a code red murder. And we have, all the pieces are fitting together. And it's very clear that that a lot was wrong on Fort Bliss. A lot was wrong in Richard's unit, and we're getting to the bottom of this, right? Um, I'm going on to Facebook right now to make sure that everything is working. Okay, my sound is good. Thank you so much. Okay, yeah, here's the hat. I don't know if you can read it, but it is about the FBI employee that walks into the Dollar General, and while he's walking in, there's a flyer on the door of Richard, and hold on. And yeah, it is tear jerking. Um, there's a flyer on the wall, on the window, and as he's walking into the door, it's on the window of the door. He sees it. It's of Richard, and he tells the cashier when he enters into the store that she can take down the flyers because there was also a flyer on the freezer door for the ice. And she says, "Really? Why? Is he okay? Did you find him?" And he goes, "The FBI, they found him, and it's bad news." Um, and she goes, "Well, what happened?" And he proceeds to tell her that the FBI found him and that they were looking in 5 places for him. And she says, "He lost me right there. That was so weird." That was because Richard was dismembered. That's why that, and she being sweet and good, uh, that didn't even dawn on her. Um, and then when he goes to the door, he calls her over. We have the whole CCTV footage of it. And we also have her video testimony of this whole thing that matches the CCTV footage. He calls her over and he says, "It's bad news. He's dead." Shh. And he walks out. And she calls us, and she's a hero. She's the hero, really, because she called us right away, and we got there within an hour. We were able to get the CCTV footage. We were able to get her video witness testimony and the others in the store. And she's just the hero because he turns out to be Nadal Bayim, the father-in-law of Lieutenant Colonel Bugado in the G3 of the 32nd ADCOM. Okay? And they knew that they had found Richard. This is October 26, 2020, and we turned this all into the FBI. And we have information that the FBI took over the case that day. Of course they would. Of course they would, because he was an FBI employee. He stated to her that he was with the FBI, and so and Jeff Downey, he's not no longer there in El Paso, is he? Or he's on his way out. I know that he's leaving, and he never had any intention of leaving El Paso, and he's in charge of the FBI. So this is not coincidental. Okay, this is a big deal. This is a huge deal. in our son's case. Let me make sure I have my phone plugged in. So this hero, um, will be forever grateful to her because I think that the whole thing was exposed that day, and there was still this effort, millions of dollars, because of the connections of Richard's case with another much larger case. The this is really all effort went into covering this up and covering up the fact. Can you imagine at that point covering up the fact that they had Richard's remains and that they refused to give it and give us the remains, give the public the remains of their soldier? Because you see, this is an assault not only on our family, not only on Richard, not only on our family, but this is an assault on the American people. This is Richard was their soldier. They're the ones that have to pay the bills, right? They're the ones that have to supposedly, uh, if they would follow the laws, decide when to go to war and when not to go to war. It's not supposed to be an executive branch order or some elites that say we go to war. We are a republic and we're supposed to come together as a people and decide if we want to send our sons and daughters to war because they are ours. They are ours. This is supposed to be our military, and we fund them, and we have given them everything, right? We have given them everything so that they will defend us, defend the Constitution, which means the land and the people. And those that we have entrusted with these millions and billions and trillions of dollars, don't forget that the Pentagon has failed over and over and over again. I think it's over 5 times now. Any audit with trillions of dollars missing, unaccounted for, that they are given the responsibility to look after these minors coming over, be it teenagers down through smaller children at the emergency intake center at Fort Bliss, that are military, that can't even keep an accounting of what we have given them, what we have entrusted to them. And they fail by trillions of dollars. We're not talking about tens of thousands or 100,000. We're talking about trillions. Trillions are not millions. They're not billions. Trillions are far, far more. It's just huge. And, when we want to hold them to account, then some kind of event happens, right? And this is so something needs to be done because our trust has been broken. We have been betrayed. We've given them everything, those beautiful uniforms, um, all the weapons, and then they smuggle the weapons out. They smuggle the weapons out with the ammunition, with even grenades. We're hearing grenades, and even other equipment, other weapons that they smuggle out and they sell, right? And El Paso with Fort Bliss is very prime property because it is the Siamese sister city of Juarez, Mexico. And so, it's very, very easy to, if you have access, a special pass to cross the border. Let's say you want to go worship over there, you want to cross over there. It's very easy to smuggle out if you have a special pass, right? If you have connections within the CID. I remember Dirty Agent Marlon Soto telling me that he had privilege. He had privilege because he was necessary during COVID. He was the necessary people. We're unnecessary. So they divide the people. And he had the special passes, and he could go in his car anytime he wanted and go wherever he wanted. He said that, that he, what was the word for it? Maybe someone can help me out with that. But yeah, they were these privileged, and if you were LDS, you absolutely had a pass that you could go over to Juarez. This is prime property, and so we've entrusted everything to them. And now that if we need something for the defense of this country, we're short. We're short. We're $33 trillion dollars, and now we're short. And our service members at Fort Bliss is number one in suicides. That's what number one in suicides. Okay. I know the Brandon Act. I know Brandon. He was in the Navy, service member. He was so bullied. He was so bullied that they retaliated against him. Um, and, he was so distraught that, but he was calculated. He was so distraught and yet calculated in his despair. And he waited until everybody was on that top deck, and he walked into the blades of a helicopter to commit suicide. In front of everybody. In front of everybody. He made a statement. And the statement is, something is wrong in our military. Something is wrong. Okay? The leadership is wrong. We have can't even pass an audit. We don't even have proper equipment because we're short. Any kind of repair or whatever that needs to be done, where is the equipment? Where did it all go? Where did it all go? And then we have this high level of suicides. And my husband reminded me today that the evidence points to what they were trying to do with Richard is trying to get him to suicide. That's what we believe, because the amount of retaliation that they poured out against him, the waterboarding. My husband is my husband, 30-year veteran of the Army. He knows the Army. He absolutely reminded me today that with all of the retaliation that they were pouring out on Richard, the mission that they had was that he would also despair and commit suicide. They were trying to suicide him. And our, Representative Veronica Escobar contacted us when a soldier on Fort Bliss, active duty soldier, we do not know him. We know of him now because Veronica Escobar contacted us when this soldier put in for a congressional inquiry. Right away. Matter of fact, her office, was pivotal because, and crucial in this whole thing, and is crucial in this congressional inquiry into our son's case. And I had a call today from another mother, activist that said, wait a minute, I was listening to your live stream and you have not had a congressional inquiry yet? There has been no congressional inquiry into your son's case? You haven't had a congressional inquiry into your son's case? I said, no. No. She goes, what? What? I know. I know. I know. And so I want every American loving, Army supporting, military supporting person out there, individual out there, to understand that due process in our son's case has been thwarted in every which way. In every which way. We have not, this is way over 3 years, we have not had a congressional inquiry. That's about to change because Veronica Escobar contacted us to let us know that a soldier there, an active duty soldier on Fort Bliss, has submitted a congressional inquiry. And it is about our son. It's about our son. It's not only about our son, but it's about our son. And, we knew the points. We were told the points that he was making, right? About our son, about the girls being brought in during the COVID lockdown, the young party girls, given these passes by then the chief of security of Fort Bliss, Thomas Kane, who he issues, he knows everything about the security there and the guards and passes. That's his job, right? And he is the one that issued those passes for those young party girls. And, so that was part of that is part of the questions into the congressional inquiry with the 14-year-old young girl living in the barracks being prostituted out. But there's also questions about our son's case. And we were like, wow, maybe he's sticking up. I don't know. But we did find out because DC sent agents to this active duty soldier on Fort Bliss. Okay? We got word from our alliance on Fort Bliss that special agents came down from DC to visit with this active duty soldier on Fort Bliss. And we were informed this week, just this week, let's see, maybe it was the end of last week, that this soldier has direct witness information with prime suspects in our son's case. And that's why his congressional includes questions about Richard's case. Okay? Disappointment with the way this case has been handled because he knows information, direct information. And so DC is moving forward with, a renewed, and it's really going to be renewed because of all of our information that we have received in black and white about the botched investigation, because we had a dirty agent. We had a dirty agent, Marlon Soto, in charge of our son's case. And the dirty agent went to bat for another dirty agent, Tavita Nusa. And, of course, for Leilani Hart. And so they were absolutely tampering with Richard's file, giving access, unauthorized access to Richard's file. And I can read off some of the things that we have been told that has been going on in our son's case. And I'll do that. But, we need to let everyone know that this soldier needs our support because I don't understand why everybody doesn't want a congressional inquiry into our son's case. Let the truth come out. If that means that we will find the murderers of Richard, then that's a good thing. If we find that, the wrong people have been accused, not accused, but alleged to have done, foul play against Richard Halliday, our son, then that's a good thing. That clears our name. That is a good thing. So everybody should be able, everyone should want to get behind this congressional inquiry. Let's get to the bottom of it. But, the fact is that there are people that do not want this. And, that raises red flags. Why not? You know, that means they're corroborating the information coming out, uh, that there was weapons smuggling going on in Delta Battery 143. Weapons smuggling going on in the CID arms room, um, or the armory, right? The Fort Bliss Armory. That there was human trafficking going on, that there were things in the emergency intake center that were so, so bad that was going on. And of course, BBC, I've been reading through um, historical articles about it. And, BBC was reporting on what they found that was so egregious in the emergency intake center. We know that it stressed out all of El Paso community because there were no child care workers in, and then they had this emergency child care, and they let anyone take care of children. And then you had the heart child care, right? The heart child care, um, starting, years ago. I think 2018, 2017, 2018, because of all of this need for childcare in the El Paso area being so close to the border. And then it wasn't checked. And when you think about heart childcare, you just want to cringe. You just want to cringe. The fact the fact that no one's been arrested for that FBI criminal complaint affidavit that was notarized, about incest, about child sexual abuse, about child pornography, about illegal gun purchases. And there is a gunsmith in this whole case. Okay, um, so yeah, it just makes you cringe that anybody would, unknowingly put their children in their care and be targeted. And that has continued, children being targeted, even until recently. We have information, criminal complaints, even about those things. So, the congressional inquiry is something everyone can get behind. And in order to get that, this active duty soldier needs to be, my husband thinks he needs to have some security assigned to him, because, it's just that crazy because of what we have had to go through with the intimidation. And I really don't talk about it too much, the threats and the intimidation and the bullying and all of that. But, and, so I can't even imagine what this active duty soldier on Fort Bliss is, might face in all of this. So, if you haven't signed the petition, you need to sign the petition, please, and also campaign for this soldier, because the more people that know about him, the more people that are supporting him. And you don't have to be an American to support him. If you want to get to the truth on this, that's why I put it out in Korean, in Spanish, in German, in English, um, because he needs to be in the spotlight to keep him safe. And so we need to put a hedge around him of safety. And that's very, very important. So, yeah, very important. So please campaign for that. And everybody, um, I don't know a person, it wouldn't make sense for anybody not to support a congressional inquiry in this case. Okay. So that's really, really important. The other thing is we have confirmation, and this is kind of breaking news, confirmation from the Department of State, because of the black and white information that we have now that proves that CID agent Marlon Soto is a dirty agent. And we have been working to get the kilometer 29, um, relooked at. Let's re let's research that area. Let's revisit that area. Let's sweep that area. Let's talk to the people in that area. And so the Department of State, we have institutional support that they are going to look into that area. Look into that area. There might be, I'll keep you updated, because that area is very, very important because that is where an FBI report said that Richard's remains were buried. And they want to relook at that with the new evidence that we have because there's a couple of new locations in that area. And so anybody, this is not to um, malign anything that we've already done. I can't tell you how many times I've had to go look at evidence 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. You've got to go look at people, research people over and over again, research places over and over again, research the evidence over and over again, the screenshots, everything, because things come to light with new truths that are popping up. And, March of 2021 was a long time ago. We are in 2023, we're in October 2023, and we need to, with the new evidence, especially with the Lalani Hart, with the Dallas Hart, with the James Hart, with the Ortegas, with the Rochas, with the Garcias, with the Hoffmans, with this new evidence coming out, the names, when we talk to people there and everything, might ring a different bell. They might point us into a different direction. So that area, and I have to take time to explain this because this is just something that any investigator does, especially in a very long investigation like this one, unfortunately, and especially that the congressional is coming up, inquiries coming up. This is something very, very important that we need to double check. We need to double check. We probably need to triple check it. And we need to have some fresh eyes in that area. Fresh eyes, to look at that area that has kept up with this case, that knows the new information, has the new intelligence that we have been receiving, to go into that area and look at it. So I want to make it very clear. This is not to malign anybody. This is not to say that what we did in March of 2021 wasn't beneficial. It was very helpful, but there's new evidence and it needs to be revisited. It's pointing to that area, especially with the tactical move storage units, the connexes, um, the earth movers that are in that area. Where were they moving the earth, and there's much more. There's intelligence behind the scenes that is important for us to look at that area. And I'm very grateful that the Department of State, we're in communication with them, and that that's very good news. That's very good news that that's going to be looked at. So that's the kilometer 29 um, information that we want to make sure and recover that, revisit that. And everyone should get behind that. We're looking for our son's remains, you know? And so if new evidence is pointing to that, everyone should want to get behind that. They don't have to pay for it, right? The first time we did this, we didn't ask anyone to pay for it except for us, except for Team Find Richard Halliday. I mean, Donna was making pecan pies, right? Donna was making pecan pies. We were working hard to get that money together to search that area. So, everyone should get behind this. It's simple as that. Um, Let me make sure. Yeah, I wanted to go into. Uh, well, maybe if I list these things, I can explain them. So the information that we're getting from the inner circle, um, intelligence from the inner circle, and also from our alliance at Fort Bliss, and information coming out of El Paso. Because don't forget that Lalani Hart, convicted criminal and quote unquote determined to be crazy by so many people. This is not me. I don't know. I've never met her. I've asked her to come on here, right? She can call me. I've asked her to call me. I've gone through people to ask her to call me. So I don't know her, but I've talked to people that have been her victims, okay? And I've talked to her husband, and I've talked to Dallas, her son. And, her criminal record, a judge even determines her to have mental instability and orders her as part of her sentencing that she be mentally evaluated. So, and there's no shame in being mentally ill. Okay? There's no shame in being mentally ill. She's mentally ill. The thing is that this is going on and on and on, and she's hurting people. And the people that she's hurting, they're calling her crazy. Okay? She's crazy. She's crazy. She's not right in the head. She's crazy. Okay? And it's just one person after the other. So I am putting it out there. She has been determined a convicted crazy criminal. Now that's dangerous. That's dangerous because um, even in 2023, this year in March, she was accused of assault. Okay? Accused of assault. And when she went in there in May to try to say, oh, that was a false allegation, they told her to pound sand. Go hit the road, Jack. You have history with us. She has so much history with the law enforcement that's not good, right? I'm just giving you the facts. I'm giving you the facts. There is a mental health issue, and there is a violence there, and those are dangerous. There is a lying to authorities, lying to law enforcement authorities. So that's deception. So there's deception and violence and mental health issues. And she is, allowed to continue to obstruct justice in our son's case, to have unauthorized access to our son's file, to tamper with our son's file, to conceal her own file because she has a immigration problem. There seems to be an immigration issue, and we don't know what her name is. We call her Lalani Hart, but we don't know if that's her name. She has multiple names, and they like to steal identities. This is, we have confirmation she's been using other people's social security numbers. So this is, thank you. Thank you. That's a huge deal. And so we have this evidence, and because Richard's file and investigation is a botched investigation, we are revisiting. The whole investigation needs to be redone. And we need to start with the Hart family. We need to start with the Hart family because we have so much evidence that a jury would convict Dallas Hart. Okay? And of course, it exposes a larger group. And of course, it exposes that our son's case with that larger group is connected to a much bigger case. And so the motive is there. And I can give you some motives and that we have collected over these 3 years. And of course, it's eliminating a whistleblower, right? Eliminating a whistleblower. That's a motive. Financial gain. We have information that some people were brought in to thwart this investigation or to get rid of Richard's remains. Also, those that wanted to eliminate a whistleblower, it's because he would cut off their source of funding, right? Their gravy train. And their gravy train was criminal, either being at weapons smuggling, which seems to be a big one, the child sex trafficking, or just human trafficking. Mostly that's all women. We know that. And, this child pornography, that's another really big one because the child that was alleged to be sexually assaulted in Leilani Hart's master bedroom by multiple members of her family was a child of an active duty service member there on Fort Bliss. That's very important to know. Okay. And, so there is also the IDES PABLO, which is the Medical Health Board for the veterans in order to get the disability checks, right? So this is a moral hazard because if you depend on the disability checks and, maybe maybe that was easy got, right? Then you will protect the crime. You will protect the criminal that created this crime, created the moral hazard. And so that is also a big problem in this because why is Leilani Hart 100% disabled? Maybe it's because of her mental health, but she seems to be working, right? Of course, she's assaulting people. I don't know. I'm not the doctor, but I'm just saying you have 100% disabled, 100% disabled, 100% disabled. And when you're 100% disabled, and there's so many in this case, there's this common denominator of LDS and 100% disabled, or almost a high rank, a high percentage of disability. And you have Leilani Hart's husband, James Hart, who, in February of 2022, for their divorce, said we need a psychologist because my wife needs to be mentally evaluated because she doesn't seem to have everything there. There seems to be a problem, and that problem must be violence because there's a domestic disturbances that came from that family, right? So there's the family made claims against their own mother. So this has been long. This is just long history. The criminal history is, and I don't, why do I have to tell you about the criminal history about the Hart family? Because they are part of Richard's case. I didn't look for them. Dallas Hart was Richard's platoon leader. Leilani Hart geez, is Dallas Hart's mother. James Hart is Dallas Hart's father. They're involved in Richard's case. They're used to obstruct justice, to thwart our due process, right? Absolutely. We haven't even had a congressional. So, and then so I'll give you some more of these motives, a personal vendetta. Um, and that goes into some different things that were going on with Richard. Um, that they had a personal vendetta because if you meet a 17-year-old young mother and her friends and family are saying it's okay for her to be a stripper, and Richard has an ideology which goes to another ideological difference, right? He has a different ideology and he's like, oh yeah, don't do that, don't do that, right? They say they respect you, but they don't. What do you mean? Are you telling me my daddy doesn't respect me, or my friend doesn't respect me? And so then there's a personal vendetta. Then so, and that's very clear in the videotapes that we have of both Belen Rocha and Richard Halliday. He didn't want her to be a stripper, okay, and what comes with being a stripper. Um, and he was pretty polite with the whole thing. He was apologetic and he was like, you don't have to listen to me, but this is how, don't do it. So he did care about her, um, because he told her not to do it. So, but people didn't take that lightly because she can make some money. And anyway, it's a personal vendetta with an ideological difference. And then the other, covering up misconduct. So, that goes back to eliminating a whistleblower. And why would they try to cover up that they eliminated him? And that is, because they're covering up the misconduct. And that is, huge, huge. Um, Protecting the larger conspiracy. And this is where our son's case is connected, and absolutely is connected. A defense attorney connects this whole case together. We'll be releasing that very, very soon. We've been drafting letters. We have to notify other people first before we drop that name. But a defense attorney is definitely the puzzle piece that connects Richard's case to the larger case. And many of the people that are involved in Richard's case are also involved in the larger case, connected with this defense attorney right there. So um, that's protecting a larger conspiracy. And also, when you have uh, selected people being in charge of the IG, the DES, the CID, the CYS, the CPS, uh, you know, the VA, when you have these few people that have been selected to head this very important group, and then they can protect each other while they're committing crimes, that they can do some serious cover up, okay? Serious cover up and retaliation and intimidation, right? They can do that very easily because they're in charge of their agency, their institution. Um, so, settling a score, um, Also, that CPS complaint, uh, or Richard, we have information from the inner workings of Fort Bliss that people were arrested for what Richard complained about. And so the settling of a score would be retaliation for the CPS complaint for, um, exposing criminal activity that got people arrested. Okay. And that's why there probably was some changes, shifts, realignment in Delta Battery 143, um, like around February of 2020. Okay, you saw that the retaliation, Richard's case started way before he disappeared. You saw the retaliation starting in January of 2020. It might have started before that, just with the bullying and stuff, but they didn't have anything on him, and so they had to try to discredit him. And when July 9th, 2020 came around, and how the plot to discredit him in January of 2020 failed, and everything in between January of 2020 and July 9th had been built on a lie, had been built on a scheme, um, and by Major General Clem Coward, by Lieutenant Colonel Michael Roddick, by the unit, right? Um, and I'm sure it wasn't all unit members, but absolutely by whoever um, had a score to settle with him. Okay. Because of ideological differences. Absolutely. And then another thing we have on our list for motive is um, exploiting organizational weakness. And that is, when you have an emergency intake center that is a weak organization and you can human traffic 85,000 unaccounted for minors, where did they go? You're exploiting the organizational weakness. Right now, Leilani Hart has been exploiting the institutional and organizational weakness of Fort Bliss. The CID totally destroyed the CID. I mean, dirty agent there. Dirty agents there at the CID. And more. And more, y'all. It is. And then, to exploit the JAG, to exploit the chain of command, to exploit Park University, absolutely exploited Park University's weaknesses. And the same thing with CYS, the same thing with CPS, the same thing with DES. Absolutely exploited the weakness of Thomas Kane. Okay, he was totally exploited. Um, you know, his honor was shredded, and that hurt so many of our service members. So many things are wrong on Fort Bliss. And during that time of 2020, and you have to remember 2020 was a year that COVID started and it continued, and so not only could they be undercover of each other's organizational leadership roles, but they could be undercover of COVID, the COVID regulations. And absolutely, I saw it with my own eyes. I heard it with my own ears that dirty agent Marlon Soto was exploiting the organization weakness of COVID mandates 100%. And that's why I, kept fighting against it, because I saw him exploiting it, right? In order to not do his job when it came to Richard's case. And he had this excuse, this COVID excuse, to not do his job, and you could not challenge him on it, even though I tried. I tried to say, well, we have a missing soldier here, you know? And the same thing with Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe. He was totally um, weakened. The weakness was so clear, and you had the shaking because of the political ramifications and the institutional retaliation if you did not go along with the insanity. And you could lose everything. And so it's the shaking of our service members and the insanity that Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe had to portray and act out in front of his service members, that it was just absolutely insane. It was so opposite of what you would expect for a general. You'd think, oh, a general is afraid of nothing, is the leader of men, the leader of these women that want to serve our country. And here he is, like, whoo, so weak. It was so embarrassing. I just I cannot even tell you the memories about this. And to say that you care about your service members because they have a 0.0003 chance of whatever, of catching a little sniffle or whatever, or even dying, right? Which is this was what the insane ideological differences were. I'm like, what day do we wake up and we have no chance of dying? What day? Tell me, General. What day does anybody ever have that they wake up and they never have a risk of dying? What are you doing to your service members? What are you doing to our service members? It was so insane. And, to make people more afraid and have to play a game, because it was a game, for political, that hurt the United States, that was destroying our economy. And now we are living in the destroyed economy, right? We're living in the destroyed economy, which festers death because we have more crime going on. So more children are being abused, more people are dying from crime, more people are having a harder time and are miserable, because in 2020, people wanted to wake up and say, I have no chance of dying today. No, sorry. Life is a gift. And God can snuff it out real quick. God gives it and God takes it away. Glory be the name of the Lord, right? And to be afraid of death is to live in fear every day. Every day. No, thank you. No, thank you. Right? What happened to the prayer? Now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep. If I shall die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to take. Well, what happened to that? That's a prayer of bravery, total bravery. And a knowledge and an acknowledgement that, life is precious. So I just, and it really interfered with reality. It interfered with the reality that we didn't know where our son is. We don't know where our son is. We know that he was murdered. We know that they were looking for his remains. We have that from the G3 of the 32nd AdCom. We have that from the FBI employee. We have that from the CAO, the Lieutenant Colonel Ali Payne, the mouthpiece for the general. We have that from the general. We have that from the Department of State, that they were looking for his remains. We have it from um, a a paranormal, right? So it was all about looking for Richard's remains. Everything pointed to that. Every time that that was brought up, it was like, oh, we got to go. Um, it's very obvious. And we haven't heard from him. There's no sign of him. There's no sign of him. And we haven't heard from him. So, what did this bring about? It brought about these motives, especially, and I haven't mentioned Elder Fernandez in a while, but we thought about him today. We always think about him. But especially today because we were talking about how the unit, their method, their sickness, and I'm not talking in the entire unit. I'm talking about this criminal element, the criminal element that had taken over this unit to do their criminal activities. And HRC needs to be investigated, okay? How they could place certain people in certain positions and let them stay there for years and years and years. Clem Coward was there for years. He knew Leilani Hart. Absolutely, this is all connected. Roaches knew, they all knew each other, including Tanya with family advocacy. Tanya Katzen, who is Danae Katzen's mother. All of these people, they have their roles and they all know each other and they've been there for years and years, and they, in my in all the information that I'm getting, they have a lot to lose, and that's why they obstructed justice. That's why they, okay, and I'll tell you, that's why there's false alibis, right? There's covert meetings. So, we have this information coming in from El Paso. We have boots on the ground. We have people in the inner circle, just like they have infiltrated Team Find Richard Halliday, which is fine because we're transparent. I come on here, I don't see them coming on, and talking about Leilani Hart and Dallas Hart and her absolute criminal record and the divorce proceedings that show so much, that are coming up, needing a psychologist for her, psychiatrist, whatever. Um, yeah, so there's covert meetings. They even use certain language, certain ways of communicating online, and that's covert. Yeah, it's big. Creating false alibis. We know that fabricating. You can say fabricating false alibis if you want to talk in legal sense. Tampering with evidence. We absolutely know that they tampered with evidence because we have Richard's things, and we know that he had other things. Things have been tampered with. We know that they didn't inventory his things correctly. Just so much circumstantial evidence plus hard evidence plus irregularities. So there's absolutely tampering with evidence, and we even have a key witness that put in a formal complaint in his formal office because of that. And he's being they scrubbed Richard's file of any mention of him. Okay? So that is tampering with the file, right? No, tampering, erasing that Richard was being chaptered, erasing the field grade Article 15, because those were built on that attempt to discredit him. And, July 9th, that fell apart. So legally, they have no grounds to have done what they did to him, to try to get him to commit suicide, and like what they did to Elder Fernandez. He was abused, y'all. And they yeah. So pray for his family. That is horrible, and I hope they get justice for Elder Fernandez. Absolutely. The spreading of misinformation, we have so much proof of that. It's not even funny. You saw that with Jay Paulin right away, and Belen Rocher right away, and Danae Katzen right away, and so many others spreading misinformation. Oh, well, of course, withholding information and spreading misinformation, who's like the number one really culpable, and that's the dirty agent, Marlon Soto, telling law enforcement, going over to the military police and telling them all kinds of things that were not true about Richard, to get them to not want to search for Richard, and even to campaign to not search for Richard. So that's spreading misinformation and withholding misinformation, absolutely. The coordinated distractions, and you see why we're making these lists right now, because we're getting ready, y'all. We've been putting together our information, listing everything that we have, organizing, because when the court starts, when we start getting into the congressional inquiry, when we start getting into court, right, it goes fast. It goes really fast, and you need to have your ducks in a row. And so, all these letters, all of this work, all these open records requests, all of the FOIAs, all the things that we have put together, just to organize them. And thank God that I started these live streams, because that organizes your memory and your mind daily, so that you can go in there and you know what you're talking about, and you know who you're talking about, and you know who, and you're not stuttering. So the spreading misinformation, absolutely. And the congressional could square away a lot of things of the misinformation. So we really need to have that. And we're happy to report that that's moving forward. Okay, so Veronica Escobar is moving that forward. So thank God. Thank God. Keep praying for her. Coordinated distractions. There were many coordinated distractions. Okay. Which, that's okay, because every coordinated distraction we made lemonade out of. So all those lemons, we made lemonade out of, and we're moving forward. Tampering with witness statements, absolutely. Intimidating witnesses, absolutely. And intimidating Team Find Richard Halliday. There was a lot of that going on. Anybody that supported us, they were bullied. They were told lies. Let's just say it. They were told misinformation about this case and our son, and about our family. And so that was absolutely done. And so there's a whole section on that. And we have piles, so you have to organize all this. Online campaign to spread misinformation. Absolutely. And that's still going on. Richard's identity was stolen. Um, and it's and his image was tampered with in the Interpol. Why is it seems to be Dallas Hart's face all over Richard? Why is it? Okay, what is that sickness? I don't know. Are they trying to steal Richard? He does not have and never had a criminal record. That's a that's a social security number that you want, right? You want a social security number that doesn't have baggage. And yeah, so his identity, we have proof that it was stolen. Okay. Um, and there's a lot of other online campaigns to spread, and the campaign to end the law enforcement. The campaign amongst the law enforcement community to spread misinformation about Richard and our family and what was going on. They were misled. They were given false information, and I think that we put in a criminal complaint um, about the MP, and I think that he could say, well, I was given misinformation, and I think that would be a good defense. I think it would be. But he still wasn't. He still didn't have the esprit de corps to know better. You know, where is the training of esprit de corps? Because if you don't have esprit de corps, you win a war. And so it's very clear why we haven't won a war, because we don't have the esprit de corps. My dad made that very clear. My dad, he, yeah, he made that very clear. Um, Rest in peace, Dad. Sabotaging witness statements. Um, R- Rob's own witness statement was sabotaged. And that's part of this Department of State Kilometer 29 research. Okay, redo. We need to re-look at it. We need to review it. And part of that is sabotaging Rob's witness statement. So that that was really crucial in getting the Department of State to help us. Tampering with CCTV footage. Okay, that would be in the realm of Thomas Kane, right? And then coercing a potential witness. Um, yeah, I'm trying to think how Bob Moore and Angela Kacherga fit into this, because they really tampered. They obstructed. They used a convicted crazy criminal as a source. And, you know, how do you do that when you're a journalist and you bring in um, you bring in your organizations, it's I guess it's exploiting your power, right? It's an abuse of power for Ms. Kacherga to do what she did, um, and to use that as a political attack dog on our son's case, to interfere with our son's case with a key witness. And we let her know, and she didn't care. She didn't care. She didn't care about Richard at all. Okay. Um, Planting false evidence. Yeah. Oh, Bob Moore and Angela Kacherga. I think that goes, the false evidence and clues, absolutely, and not backing it up with anything and then making it seem like it was real. And it absolutely wasn't real, because the forensic evidence wasn't there. So manipulating forensic evidence. Oh my gosh, we just hit a home run, because that's what they did, manipulated forensic evidence and coordinated false testimonies. So that's a real big one right there with El Paso Matters, and more in our son's case, and also with with KTEP, and of course Danae Katzen, Danae Katzen, of course the PI, um, with Danae Katzen. That was the interview with Boleyn was interesting. That was very helpful, very helpful. So and it's all going to be released, and people can make their own mind up. But one day we're going to release this whole thing. It's so big, and when that it's connected to a bigger case, and how this, who is who in all of this, um, everything will become clear. So it's right now, our son's case is a botched investigation, and that's why we have a lot of redos. And finally, maybe we'll get the congressional inquiry. It seems to be going forward, and that's really good. And also the relook at kilometer 29, which is very important. So, okay, thank you, Eddie, for coming on. Good evening, Miss Halliday and Team Fun Richard Halliday. Big heart to you. Thank you so much. Anicia, thank you as always for your prayer and love, your steadfastness. And Danielle, thank you for good evening to you for your prayer and your love, and all your research. It's awesome. Sending prayers. Absolutely. Yeah, we're burning the midnight oil. I understand. I understand. But I have to do this late because, life goes on during the day, and, um, you know, we got, you got to live, right? We're human. Okay, so prayers to you. You will find your boy. Thank you so much. God bless you. God have mercy on this mother. Thank you so much. Christ have mercy. Lord have mercy. Christ have mercy. Absolutely. So thank you, everybody. And that's what we want to do. We want to find out what happened to Richard. We want to get the answers. I know that the devil team that lies, I'm sure they're saying over there, if only Leilani Hart would have kept her mouth shut, we could have got away with this, because what Leilani Hart has done is expose so many things, and we're grateful. Uh, we're grateful that she just could not keep it in. Um, we're very grateful, because they could definitely have gotten away with the murder of our son, and but we have enough now that we can definitely go to a jury and get a conviction. And so that's why we're looking at these cases, like the latest one is the Natalie Holloway from Aruba, even though it's 18 years later. But they never found her remains. And that, you know, I hope that's not our case. I want Richard's remains, right? I want Richard's remains. I'm, of that ideology where I want his remains, and I want to bury him properly, and I want to, um, yeah, All Saints Day is coming up, anyway. Um, yeah, thank you for your prayers. Thank you so much, Anna, for coming on. So, and hopefully El Paso will be a better place, and Fort Bliss will be a better place. And hopefully our military will be stronger for this, because I think a lot of people need to get the message that we won't tolerate this kind of criminal activity in our military, that we have entrusted our country to. We've entrusted our country to them. That's why we, give them everything, right? Because we want to preserve our country and our rights and be able to pursue our small businesses and our family endeavors and not criminal, but live in relative peace. Um, so this is a message that we need to send, is that we're not going to tolerate what they've done to our sons and daughters and all of the mental illness. You understand, the mental illness. And one other thing that I have to mention, that somebody mentioned to me today, about the girls being brought in during the COVID lockdown and putting them in danger, because at that same time we were being told by Brigadier General David Stewart that the barracks were flush with weapons. They were flush with weapons, okay? And there was a drug problem in the barracks. The barracks are and still the marketplace for illegal drugs, for all of this fentanyl coming in, and whatnot. The LSD. Remember the initiation where they would take the new soldier and tie them up and make them naked and beat them and stuff LSD in their mouth. I can't tell you how many people told me that things like that happened to them, and they would poke them and prod them. I mean, that is not esprit de corps. Okay, that I just want to make that clear. That's not funny, and that's not esprit de corps. Okay, and that doesn't make a strong army at all. It doesn't make a strong military at all. And that, what it does is it makes people PTSD. It makes people PTSD, afraid to sleep. You have to sleep with one eye open in your own barracks, and it makes people have to go see a doctor for some medication to relax them, and that's not healthy. A military on medication is not healthy. Okay. So, because you're in a war zone, you can't just, oh, I got to go to the pharmacy today. Uh, you know, so, no. And once you're on these medications, it messes with you, especially psychological medications. Okay. My husband's a physician assistant. Once you're on these medications, it is it is so hard to get off, and it messes with you. It makes many times it makes you more suicidal. Maybe that's why there's so many suicides, because there's um, so many of these incidences that are giving our soldiers PTSD, and then they get on these medications, and it makes them even more depressed, and one thing leads to the other. So yeah, that is there's a lot going on. But what I wanted to mention is that these young girls, these party girls being brought in, there was no 6 feet apart. There was no mask during this COVID party time, even though COVID, whatever. And, I don't believe in the germ theory, so I believe in the train theory. So, whatever. Um, but the point is that Fort Bliss had a problem with STD. So not only, they're so concerned about COVID, but we're going to bring in party girls and they can party and whatever, and they're not going to stay 6 feet apart, and they can bring in their drugs and whatnot into a barracks that is flushed with weapons, and right next to the class six, so everybody can stay drunk. You remember the one soldier that, and so many soldiers have told me they stay drunk. So that's a whole nother issue. That's not esprit de corps, y'all. That's not esprit de corps to go, be in the field and drink from the grog, and oh, it's from a sealet, so I get poisoned by antifreeze and I have to be in the hospital and I almost lose my life, right? Um, that's not esprit de corps. But these party girls are being brought in, and I was told today, I said, did you know that that Fort Bliss has a problem with STD? I'm like, oh, one more thing on top of all of these dangers that they create for our service members. And I looked it up. And you know what? It's all like $135 STD test, $200 STD test. Wow. What another business plan. Let's bring in, I'm just wondering if they had, a part in these tests. Um, you know, Let me see if I'm going to invest in these tests, and then I'll let these party girls bring, come in. Who knows who is who and who was with who and whatever. And we'll just, give everyone STDs and we'll charge them $135 for a test. Make their life really miserable and embarrassing and miserable. Um, it, our leaders, 44 four-star generals, 44 four-star generals and admirals, don't tell me they're that dumb. You know, that they make our barracks co-ed and then go, oh, we can't solve. We have 20 years of failed rape program, failed sexual harassment program. Oh, we have co-ed barracks. Hello? That's a simple thing you can do is separate those vulnerable females. And let me tell you, when you look at the numbers, when it's the smallest ratio was 9-1. Sometimes it's 20-1. Sometimes it's 50-1. One female to 50 men. 50, not 50 70-year-olds or 80-year-olds. No, these are 50 in their 20s, full of vim and vigor, right? Vim and vigor. And the females are around 20, 25 years old, the height of their beauty. The height of their beauty. Come on. 44 four-star generals and admirals don't get that. It's like they're constantly setting our service members up for failure in every which way. And our war stats prove that they're setting our soldiers up for failure. And now they want to go out again. They want to go to war again because that's their gravy train. So they can steal from the American people. Oh, you mean trillions of dollars of unaccounted for monies in the Pentagon? Oh, well, we want another war because that was fun. Because American people, they'll spend the money, they'll get into debt. It's just I get so I have to come on here and say it. Because they're setting us up for this war, and now they're going to empty out our country to ship our soldiers, ship our service members overseas with the equipment that we do have. And then we have an open border problem. And anyone can come in, and then we are totally left vulnerable. Totally. Praise God that Americans are allowed to have weapons, right? Praise God. But we are being left vulnerable. By our leadership. And I think that is very clear, and it doesn't take a PhD to figure that out. It just takes some pause and reflection and, put the pieces together. Read the news, put the pieces together. And we're laughed at. We're laughed at. We're the chumps. We're the chumps because, our soldiers have a suicide problem, a PTSD problem. But yet, oh, we're the meanest fighting force. Wait a minute. That's false narrative. That's a false narrative. And so all of this fabrication of evidence and false narratives at a micro level in Richard's case is also happening in a macro level at a national case. And that's why this case is so important. That's why it is so important. because we need to send a message. And so please sign the petition for the active duty soldier who decided to join Team Find Richard Halliday in saying, hey, JAG is not even willing to take our fraud, waste, and abuse complaints, not even willing to look at them. The IG, the IG, who's HRC to put IG, CID, the DES, the CYS, the CPS, all of them in this, let's cover each other up and let's not protect our service members, our country, our Constitution, which we are mandated to do by oath. By oath. And because the Americans believe in that oath, they have funded, they have entrusted the military to carry that out. And we've been betrayed. And who was crying about it? Not crying meaning wah, but reporting on it, saying, crying from the wilderness like John the Baptist, look at what's happening. That was Richard. And they didn't like him for it. He didn't want to participate in their Vanity Fair. And so I think that El Paso, I think Fort Bliss, I think even more people, we're sick and tired of it. We've had enough. We've had enough of our service members being used and abused and not being cared for, not being respected, not being honored. And, just by mouth or a horse and pony show, that's not enough. You honor people by establishing the law, establishing justice, holding those who do us harm accountable. And so, that's why we don't want immunity anymore. We want to hold them accountable. And now, if you have information, call 941-677-0060. And that's just us and our family. But I don't know what the courts would do. You can take your chances. If you were part of it, take your chances. Come forward early. That's what I would do. And it's not early. We're talking about 3 years, right? 3 years. More than 3 years. So thank you so much. And I really advise everybody really to support this soldier. Really, that would send a huge message, because we have spent our whole lives supporting our soldiers. So this is a petition everybody can get behind, because all it's saying is this soldier has a right to recourse. He has a right to get his questions answered when he feels like the security has been breached on the installation, the military installation that he serves on. So thank you so much, and campaign for that. Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening, and I'll be back tomorrow, God willing. Bye-bye.